Hello and welcome to New Faces on EuropeanVoice.com, where we are interviewing the new members of the European Parliament who were elected in this year's European Parliament elections in May. I'm Dave Keating, and I'm joined here today by Margot Parker, who is a British MEP from the UK Independence Party, which is a member of the newly renamed Europe of Freedom and Direct Democracy group. Margot, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now, you are not unfamiliar with the workings of Brussels, having worked here as a lobbyist for a very long time. What was it about your experience as a lobbyist here that made you want to cross that line over to actually become a member of this parliament?
I became very frustrated that actually it didn't matter how many years I thought I was working towards helping a trade association in the United Kingdom with 800 members, and I wanted to help them to do better business within Europe. I thought this common market has to work for the people in my country and also for the members of my trade association. So I came full of hope, and I left very, very disappointed and let down, because clearly it doesn't matter how hard you work. If the door isn't open for the decision makers to make changes, you have no chance of change. And that drove me into politics. I became very disillusioned.
For you, did you feel that it was a problem with the actual people who are here being policymakers, or is it the structure?
Structure and system. I know that had I been representing a large corporation, I'm sure the door would have been open and ears would have been listening, but that didn't happen. And we worked very honestly and diligently. We tried to do the very best we could, but I had to return to the United Kingdom, and I had to tell a board of directors that I could not deliver a piece of legislation which we genuinely thought would be good for our members. So after 5 years, 8 years on one particular piece, it just simply, there was just nothing that they could say to me. I said, well, they've spent a lot of money, but we have nothing to show for that, and we didn't succeed. And you have nothing to tell me except we changed our mind. We decided to pull that particular piece of legislation. It's very hard to go and explain that to people who are anxious that you do well for a group of people trying to succeed in business. And Europe, after all, was supposed to be succeeding for business. But it didn't happen, and it still isn't happening. So I say it's okay if you're a big organisation, you have the power. If you're SMEs, small to medium enterprises, you have no voice and you have no power.
Now, you joined UKIP in 2009, I believe.
I did.
And of course, UKIP is a party that believes that the UK should pull out of the EU.
Yes.
And UKIP came in first in the elections. They did very, very well.
Yes.
And so obviously your thinking on this is representative of a certain tide of thinking in the UK. How do you see your role here as a member of a legislative body that in a way you don't think should exist, or should at least not exist with the UK in it? Is it hard to straddle those two roles?
It is difficult, but on the other hand, I believe that we have a great role in that we highlight the really important issues that are not working within this union. And I think it's incredibly important to inform the voters and the public, to let them know exactly what's going on. I mean, if we were not here raising issues, they wouldn't be highlighted in the United Kingdom, because the three parties that are or the three old parties, as I like to call them, quite honestly, there's no difference between them. They're all the same. So we do at least stand up and tell people the facts, and then let the British people decide. I mean, we've been denied a democratic vote for 30, 40 years, and it's been shameful that we've had no chance to vote. Quite wrong. Quite wrong. And the promise is, well, let's have a referendum and we're going to renegotiate. Well, we saw how that start to renegotiation went badly wrong. I mean, we have Mr. Juncker, because Chancellor Merkel said, he's my man. I mean, better that Mr. Cameron rang Chancellor Merkel and said, who is it you want? And she tells him, and he says, okay, well, let's see if I can get this for my country. But, the horse trading looked very bad from a British voters' point of view, because they see nothing is really working, you know. It's not good for the United Kingdom. We have no influence, in spite of what they say. I do not believe they will negotiate any meaningful package whatsoever.
I mean, the big thing that separates UKIP from the ECR, from the Tories rather, is an emphasis. They say, well, the EU can be reformed. UKIP says, no, we should just get out.
No.
What would you say is the main thing lacking with the EU for you? Is it a lack of democracy?
Yes.
But is there no way to change those structures?
Do you not think for 40 years that they
long
could have
time,
not
certainly.
worked and produced a democratic system? They haven't. I mean, it's absolutely wrong. You know, and I'm hearing stories about group meetings and people that were democratically elected trying to get a position on a committee. But if you have an anti view, then you must have no voice. That's dreadful.
Well, yes, yeah, what you're referring to is the petitions committee vote
Yes,
on Monday,
yes,
which deprived
yes.
the
Yes.
slot that was meant to be for EFTD.
I mean, millions of people in Europe voted for those men and women, you know, that are there, and they were denied an opportunity to play their role. That is shameful.
Is there an argument, though, from the other MEPs who say, well, the EFTD doesn't think the Parliament should exist, so therefore shouldn't have positions within committees?
No, that's not an argument. I mean, let's think about the millions of people throughout Europe that voted for those MEPs that are here now today. Must they have no voice? Of course they must have a voice. It's wrong to say, well, because you don't agree with me, I can't let you sit on a committee. That's crazy. That's really is. It's not democracy. That's just a stitch-up.
I mean, considering what's happened with the committee chair and also being deprived of a vice president and other positions, can the EFTD be anything but a protest group in this parliament?
Oh.
Can it affect legislation in the end, or is it just here to kind of
No,
register
I think,
its discontent?
You know, we will always raise the issues where we believe that we have something to say. You know, we don't just shout for the sake of it. You know, we make valid comments. You know, we really want to represent the people. After all of these people that have voted in this way for all of those groups, those people across Europe had something to say. And you know what? To ignore them, which is really what's happening, it would be the most disastrous thing for them to do. It's quite wrong. They need to respect those people that have legitimately been elected. And they need a voice, and we should have that voice, and we should have that fair, democratic way of being able to discuss issues that might be painful, but that's no reason not to talk about them.
Great. Well, Margot, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You've been watching New Faces on EuropeanVoice.com.